Hey guys, I'm Rick, and that is One Big Pile of Bricks with our amazing guest, Greg, from...
For the love of brick.
There you go, because I didn't want to mix it up, so I was like, yeah, that's fine, you do it. How are you? Thanks for joining us. We really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It's been a while in the making.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of
one.
weird, COVID scares, and, everyone
Bookings
has
and rebookings
stuff going on in land
yeah.
lives, right?
Yeah.
So, like, trying to get everybody in the right places at the right time.
But you're here now.
Yes, I'm here now, and it is a pleasure. And I am doing okay.
Good. I'm glad that you're doing
okay.
reasonably well. Now, for those... We're going to deep dive into this.
We are.
We're going to make you cry.
We're probably going to make you cry. Now, this is a content warning that there's some things we talk about may upset people. This is from Greg's experiences. Now, Greg's been through a lot, unfortunately. We're probably getting upset. We've got the tissues ready. Now, for those listening and watching at home, Greg, explain to us how life has been for you for the last couple of years.
First things first, I've got a dark sense of humour. So that's how I deal with
for
a
it.
lot of
Yeah.
things.
All good.
So I may laugh at some of the things, but yeah, it's not, yeah.
Yeah.
When was it? It was July 14th. My son passed away.
Last year,
Last
right?
year.
Yeah.
He was 3 years old. He basically went to sleep and at childcare and just never woke up. And it was a bad day.
It was. It
It was.
would have been.
I can comfortably tell you when I found out, because obviously I reached out to you straight away. I messaged you. I'm like, hey man, what's going on? And we were doing. I think we were up here, and you told me, and it was like
I do remember that
the
day.
wind knocking. Like it's the hardest. Caroline and I have kids, but still, I was like swearing. I was like, holy shit! Like that like. Holy shit! Like what?
Wait,
like,
what?
and it was
what
like
happened?
a wave of shock to the point where I was like, I had to sit down and like get my thoughts back together because I was like, wow.
And then Rick told me, and I said, "Hang on a minute. What happened? Explain to me."
Because
what
I'm
happened.
like upset,
I
because
don't
you're
know.
upset because like
Yeah.
your mate's kid just died, and you're like, what? What's happening? Like your whole brain, and obviously it's a lot difficult for you than anyone else. And when I told Caroline's like, slow down, and I was like, blah blah blah, and she's like, oh my god. And like we cried because we were like, holy shit, like because no one's expecting that kind of news from a friend being like, hey, blah, like we're so sorry.
Yeah, it sucks. And it's the thing again, dark sense of humor, and it's the way myself and Kim look at things anyway. Like it could have been a lot worse.
Absolutely.
As in, he died in his sleep. He was with his mates. It was a great, like I talked about it in my podcast. While recording nothing was a nightmare in itself.
It was very well done, though.
Oh yeah, there
will
was like
put the
2
link.
takes on that one.
Yeah.
We will put the link down to Greg's podcast. He hasn't, obviously, because of the circumstances surrounding what was happened with him, he's had a break from podcasting, which is totally understandable. And if anyone doesn't understand, you can just, we'll put a link down and you can listen to all Greg's podcasts and the most recent one about his son.
Yep. Yeah, it was as I said, it could have went a lot worse, and it could have happened at our house. And speaking to the childcare workers, they literally said to us, we think Alby loved you enough that he didn't want to do it at home with you guys, that he did it with us. Like he loved childcare, and there was no animosity or anything to them. Like it was just a freak thing that happened. He just fell asleep. He was the safest he would have been there.
Have you spoken to the childcare workers
Oh yeah,
since?
yeah. We've been there a couple of times, and we had get together and a cry fest and everything else. And we bought a little bit of equipment for his childcare, it's like a dump truck with a slide on it.
Oh, cool.
So Alby loved dump trucks and he loved slides, and he loved that place. And so we bought it for them to put in the yard. As I said, they knew him from the day dot, and the dark sense of humor in me is Alby was a bad sleeper. Like he used to wake hourly, on the hour, every night for 2.5 years.
Wow.
And he finally got good at it.
Yes.
Just a little too good. Sorry,
Yes.
dark sense of humor.
You're allowed to have that kind of sense of humour, and anyone judging you for that is something's wrong with them, right? Because no one can understand what you're going through unless they've been through it themselves, which is unfortunately my mum, unfortunately she's passed away now, but before she had us, she had miscarriages and stillborns and stuff, and it's incredibly hard, right, on people. And I don't think anyone will be able to genuinely understand unless they've been through it, the pain everyone who, you know, he touched in his life. Like, I met him a few times. He's a cool kid. Like, you know, because obviously we're on the store and you've been in, and like, it was just a complete shock to us because we were like taken back. I was like, wait, what's happening now?
Yeah.
Like, you know, language. We were like, fucking COVID, and now this shit. Like, you know, you're just like, what is going on? Like, why is the world happening? What, you know, it's just, again, we're feeling for you. You know that I've been like reaching out and like, because I know at times of this, and unfortunately we all have those fair weather friends that are like, I'm here for you, but I'm not really here for you.
Yeah.
But you know that I've been like keeping on in touch and making sure you're okay, because my concern was you, because like it's a lot of weight to carry.
It is, yeah.
Well, that's the thing, and there will be a point where I do another podcast. No, a podcast, not just the one I do, but one which I want to do about grief, especially from the male's point of view.
That's fair.
Something called like, it'll probably end up being called not Toughen Up, but Grief Up. So like instead of Toughen Up, Grief Up. Because that's the thing, that the main thing that, and no one means anything by it, but for the first months, the main thing that kept getting said to me was, you've got to be strong for Kim. And which I am, which we're strong together. But it's like, okay, who's strong for me?
That's right.
That's right, because you can feel isolated.
Yeah, and that's the sort of toxicness of the masculinity, blah, 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 that sort of comes with being a male, that you have to protect your wife.
It's very relevant what's happening in the last couple, you know. At the time of this podcast, something happened at the Oscars, as you guys would be aware of.
But yeah, that's it. But yeah, no, it's as I said, like Kim and I, we've had great support. We cry every day. Like we have our, you know, the strong faces in front of people. Like, you know, like people I think that I'm back to normal. I am when I'm around
But
them.
you like, will you ever be back to normal?
Oh no.
Like,
There will always be.
there's always going to be the
triggers.
grief, right? You're right.
Yeah.
It's always, I think, grief is a big thing, right? And when, like, my circumstances and your circumstances are completely different. But when I lost the ability to walk and use my legs,
All of a sudden.
I woke up and couldn't walk, right?
Oh,
and that's
crap.
the shittest feeling I've ever felt, right? Now, I saw a doctor and he was like, be a man. And I think that's the sort of like,
Before diagnosis.
you know, I feel, and you know, like, suck it up, you're being a pussy. That sort of attitude. That's what he said to me. Like, and I was like, and Caroline knew, because as soon as I got out, I was like foaming. You know how you're just like, what?
Yeah.
You're right, mate?
That was a physiotherapist.
And you're just like, what's wrong with you?
really?
Like,
Yeah.
what? And I think that pressure, sorry, Caroline,
No, it's
I think
fine.
that pressure for you to be a man is a big deal. And I don't think people really focus on it enough, because we suffer grief equally.
Yeah.
Everyone carries we understand, you know, Kim's suffering, you're suffering. Kim carried him, but so did you. Like, you're a team, you're a unit.
Yeah. Well, I did have one person say to me, and again, it was not on them. It's just no one knows what to say to you. And that's the thing. Like, people say, I don't know what to say to you. And it's like, oh, no, I don't know what to say to me either.
Yes.
It's like, just
be there.
yeah, just there are a few things you probably shouldn't say. But yeah, one of them was, I guess Kim's feeling it a lot more than you are, because, you know, she's his mum and she would have had a lot more to do with it. And we're like, oh, no, we were very, like, I was very hands-on. Like, you know, like, I loved napping with him. I loved, like, you know, I'd take a day off. We worked part-time so we could have that relationship with him. He slept in our bed until he was like 3, or just under 3, really, which I'm glad for, because, holy crap, I got more cuddle time with him.
That's right, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It just...
What an odd thing to say to somebody that's going through grief, right?
Yeah, it was...
Like, how did you not have a Will Smith moment? Like...
Well, that's it. You don't have to hit everyone that offends you. Yeah, I don't know. You just... Our social worker said to us, he's like, there are just people who just don't get it. JDGI. Just don't get it.
Yes.
And that's the thing. And, you know, it happens. But that's sort of why I like my podcast and doing it. Like, as I've always said from the very beginning, it was so that I could not make people, but I could help people be better, and to not be so, like, you know, my podcast is very about, what do you call it? Diversity and
inclusion,
and not trying to be like, to break down those masculine walls basically, so that my son, try to emulate what I, that, because that's all you can do for kids. You train them to be sort of a better person than you.
And everyone has heard, people have heard of sudden infant death syndrome, SIDS.
Yeah.
But there is that risk after you get past that 1-year-old, all the way up until you're an adult, that you can just go to sleep and never wake up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's after one we thought, because it goes from SIDS to SUDC, sudden unexpected death in childhood. And then it goes up to 18, and then it's just sudden unexpected death. Someone may correct me on that. For the sudden unexpected death, I haven't really looked into it. But I've known people that were healthy and they've passed away in their sleep. There's a 16-year-old girl, again, same thing. Healthy.
Wow.
Just no explanation. And that's the thing. It just,
That's right.
Just
you just don't realise it does happen. It happened to a work colleague that I had last year, just 10 years old, went to sleep, didn't wake up, no explanation. There'll never be a reason why.
Yeah.
And that's, it happens. We don't know why, but it does.
It must be hard carrying grief and not feeling a sense of like, it's my fault. Like, is that hard to like get past the barrier in your brain? Like, could I have done something differently?
I think we were lucky that it didn't happen with us. And I think that's, again, what our childcare was saying. That
Yes.
And knowing people that have went through the exact same experience as us, but at home, it's I think not easier on us, but we don't have that, if we just did this, like there is a little bit of, if we had not taken him to childcare that day, but then again, it probably would have happened at home with us.
That's right.
It's hard to say the word lucky, right, when unfortunately your son passes away. Like, but in the grand scheme of things, it's probably for the best. You don't have the constant reminder walking past his bedroom, or because you work, you're part time, because that's memories in itself. Because you want a place for like your forever home, right? Like, that all forever, this is your castle sort of deal. Like, you don't want to be like carrying that, being like, oh wow,
that was the room where it happened. You don't have any of that. And also, I think, for the childcare workers, at least they were together. They were responsible together. It wasn't all on one person. Yeah,
and look, as I said, like there's no place safer to nap than childcare. I don't care what you like. We've had people that have tried to blame. They're like, "Oh, you should be so angry at the child." I'm like, no. We left him in a room by himself with teddies all around him, and we'd be like, "Oh yeah, whatever, he's all right." They're literally on like a plastic mat in the middle of the floor with their mate sleeping next to them. Like there's nothing safer than that.
I think it speaks volumes for you and Kim that, hey, I don't think handled is the right word that I'm trying to look for, but like handled the situation and brought yourselves forward, because it's a massive emotional burden. Like it is. It's not like to speak about death as a burden, but it is when someone you've raised dies, right? It's a burden. And Caroline and I, we've been chatting about it, obviously, for the last couple of weeks, because it's been hard for us not to get upset about it, and we've been trying to talk about it so we can get through for you, because what you need is strong people around you just to help you, carry you along, get you to the next phase, right?
Yeah, it's just, like, as I say, like, because it's one of those things, you get friends that turn up and they don't, and this is, I think, the hardest thing, they don't talk about Alby. And that's sort of a common thing that I find with a lot of the people who go through this, or even just anyone who goes through any sort of mourning anyway. People not wanting to talk about the elephant in the room, the death, whatever, or to acknowledge Alby. That actually hurts more than talking, because I've had people say to me like, "Oh, do you mind if we chat about? We don't want us to talk." And I'm like, "No, talk about him. Like I may cry."
But you need to validate his existence.
Well, that's it. It's you not acknowledging him is way worse. It's so much worse. But again, not all people want to deal with that, and that's something we've got to learn too. As it's like anything, like not everyone wants to hear about your dead kid.
I shouldn't laugh, but I was going to laugh. I'm so sorry. Just
Oh
the way
no,
you said it, I
no,
was like, my God.
that was me. My dark
That's right.
sense
I
of
was
humor.
like,
Like,
oh
Yes.
my God.
yeah,
And I think too, dark humor will be helping you get through the hard times, right?
Yeah.
Because you need to, you've got a long life to live.
Yeah.
You and Kim will be together for a long time.
Yep.
So, and dealing with it that way, I think from looking from the outside in is helping you because, we've chatted regularly over the last, since it's happened. Like by the time of this, it's been 6 or 7 months, recording.
July, yeah.
Yeah, so like, and I found that it's always hard at the start because I said to Caroline, how do I approach the subject? Because no one wants to upset their friend, because I think
Yeah.
that's the hardest thing for anybody. They don't want to upset you. But then once we started chatting about it, I was like, oh, cool. And when I've checked in, you're like, yeah, I'm doing all right. And like, we've chatted about other things like as you do because, Lego and all the other stuff that's going on. And I'm grateful that I have you as a friend, and I'm grateful that I was there for you going through that rough time because I don't think people emphasize enough about staying around. I think people are quick to being like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I gotta go." Like, there's a lot of that sort of stuff that happens, and we experienced it when my brother passed away and my mum passed away. You always have that people that are like, "Hey, I'm sorry, see you later," and then you never hear from them ever again.
yeah.
Dan was around during that
Dan,
time.
our cameraman, cameraman's been
cameraman.
around for a long time.
He was.
Yeah.
So we had
Filming it all.
that might be the topic of another podcast.
Dan had the camera in my face when my brother was. No, he didn't.
He was there. I'm sure Dan was there
How
though.
does that make you feel?
Tell us how you feel. It's like, whoa.
But that's it. And Kim actually said this to me. She went, "Would we be the same as what other people have been for us?" And for Kim, I think she would because she's always been you stub your toe, she'll send you a care package. Me, I'm very aloof. Like I'd like to think that I would, and I would, but I'm a very hard person to track down at the best of times. Like I'm very an insular person. But now, yeah, the whole aspect, like, my whole, and I think that's the thing, like, everyone's outlook changes after something like this. Like, I now know people that have been through it, and it's just, Alby made me get to talk to people. Oh, that was his name, by the way, Alby. Yeah, I don't know.
I think it helps. I think other people going through it helps, right? Because it's sad, but you have the common thing, right? And it's hard to talk about because no parent wants to see their child die before them. That's the rule of thumb, right? Like,
And not at 3. That's not
that's
what you expect.
that's not what you expect, Like normal day after school, some kids annoy you, so he's annoying you in the morning, and you send him off, and then now
Hurry
you're
up,
like,
off
oh.
you go.
Yeah.
Thank
But
goodness
like, I
he's
think it's
gone.
great for you to have a support network that you can reach out to because it's never going to be easy.
Yeah.
And sometimes you want to swear.
Well, like we're part of, and I won't say much, but we're part of a support group, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's through Red Nose.
Oh wow.
They are the best. And the stuff they have to hear is just, but it's great to have that. And that's the thing. If you are in a situation where, like, your son's died or and you need to talk, you really should try and find a support group because it is good to find. It's a swear word. It's a shit group to be like, and that's what we call it. We call it the crap group. We're at the shit buffet. And they all laughed when I said that one, but that's the thing. You need to find those, because that's a lot of us. We like a lot of myself and Kim. We were like, why is it happening to us? We're good people. We we're not a-holes or anything like that. We try to be nice and do the right thing, and we don't upset people and blah blah blah, and we follow the rules. Why us? And then you see other people and they're exactly like you too. They're lovely, beautiful people, and you're like, and then you walk down St Albans and you see some not so good people with 10 kids, and you're like, oh, I don't ever want to wish anything on any.
We get it.
I mean, the importance of counselling is paramount because we can see what happens when you don't get counselling.
Yeah, it's like the grief I've been dealing with, because it's grief, right? No one understands unless you've been through it, right? Like, And Caroline and I talk regularly, and I have a person I need to speak to. Our medical system in Australia is wonderful, where when you get sick or whatever, they give you it's like a team that looks after you. They call it the pain management team, because they want to make sure that you're okay upstairs, and they check in. And if I didn't have those people to talk to, it's easy to go to dark places, right? Because it is quite easy to switch over and be like, language, fuck this world. And be like, this is shit.
Yeah.
Because you've been through it, and you always look at, I, for a long time, did this, internal thing being like, why is this drug addict kicking around doing all right? And why am I suffering? You know that mentality? You totally get it, right? Because you've been, unfortunately, through the grief, and you're like, what's going on here?
How is it fair?
That's the thing. That's what I've been saying.
Other people are abusing their bodies, doing all sorts of things, taking all sorts of things, and they appear to be just fine. Whereas, others, for no good reason, all of a sudden, are coming down with diseases.
Yeah, it's one of those, and I think too, and I'm glad you touched on about men need to check in, because I feel like, and it's not meant to generalize, but it happens, right? Because it's easy to generalize men from women, especially when you're talking about grief or cancer or charities or fundraising.
Yeah.
It's easy to go, but you've got to be strong for the women around you, and we need to break the cycle.
It's not just about women.
It's about everybody,
well,
right?
Everyone.
We're all the same. We all suffer, and we all feel grief maybe differently, but we're all grieving in some sort of way.
Yeah.
And a credit to you, the way you've carried it speaks volumes on the character you are, because no one could blame you if you go off the rails and start drinking and treating yourself poorly, and because it's a dark hole that's very easy to get yourself into and extremely hard to get yourself out.
Yeah. I can't handle my liquor, so
It's hard to be either.
Sounds like you, Rick.
Some people can't handle me now. Imagine me on no, thank you.
Oh yeah, no, I'm a two drink wonder. Yeah, look, I think I said this in the podcast. The way we wanted to honor Alby, and the way we raised Alby was, how do you say, not in anger. Do you know what I mean? As in, you don't need to get, for us, us blaming people, us yelling at the staff. Someone said, you should get a lawyer. Who is that? That's not going to bring him back. It's going to tarnish the memory of Alby and whatnot. And the lead up for the whole day, everything went perfectly. For the 2 days leading up to Alby's death, Kim that weekend had taken him to see his grandma and grandpa and his uncle.
Wow.
All in 3 separate places. Kim got the nap with him that night. And the day before, it was my Tuesday with him. Yes. So it happened on a Wednesday, so it was a Tuesday with him. And so I got to take him out, and we went and played in the park. I took him for lunch. And it was a really good day. That night again, Kim got to sleep with him that night. And then the next morning, we'll get up, and usually it was a battle, to get him to go to childcare. But everything went perfectly. He, was up in his little high chair that I built for him, like the stool at the table thing, blah blah blah. He was there eating his porridge, and Kim came over and gave him a kiss goodnight. Goodbye. We made up a little game, like a peekaboo game, and then he was eating, and Kim gave him a kiss goodbye, and he's like, yeah, see you, Mum. Sat him on the stairs. He put his shoes on, and we went and danced out into the driveway, and he hopped in the car, and we had a good little chat. And I'm like, and put him in the car, and he went, oh, this is my spot. And then he looked next to him, and he went, oh, this is Dash's spot, which Dash is our dog. And then he looked in the front seat, and he's like, oh, that's Mum's spot? I'm like, yep. And then he went, that's your spot, Dad? And I'm like, yeah, it is. And then, we drove, and we went to childcare, and he ran off to his mates and then ran back and gave me a quick hug. And then his other little mate gave me a wave, Alvin. And then that was literally the last time I saw him until I turned up when they'd rang me. And I turned up, and I saw the ambulance. There was everyone in the emergency services in Sunshine had turned up. There were police lights, 2 ambulances, and a fire truck. He would have been happy with the turnout. And dark sense of humor. And when I turned up, I'm like, oh, the ambulance is still there. Sweet, I get to ride in the ambulance with him. And as I walked into the centre, one of the girls who looks after him, she used to, because he had allergies, like he was a bubble boy. He was allergic to so many things. She usually ate lunch with him so that he didn't eat anything that he wasn't meant to, and blah, blah. They'd always chat. And she was walking out as I was walking in, and she was white as a ghost, and the look on her face was just like, I am so sorry. And I just, as soon as I saw her, I went, oh, crap. And then that was, there was howling and screaming and all the rest of it. But yeah, it was tough. Luckily, I had installed some security cameras in our front yard, in the driveway, and I got the video footage of the last morning.
Oh,
and
wow.
Silver linings.
Yeah, and it's him playing and me singing a song to him as we walk in, and I'd watched it on repeat so often. But 2 days before Christmas, I think it was, I'd never listened to it at volume and fully, like up to the point where it cut off. And right at the end, as he's walking into the garage, where I'd usually turned it off because I'm like, oh, there's nothing else to see, he goes, today's a great day. And yeah, that. Oh,
whoa.
Do you remember him saying that at the
do
time?
not remember him saying that at all. It was just a throwaway comment, and then it cuts. As soon as he says, today's a great day, bang, cuts. And I was like, thanks, mate. That's what I needed. I needed to hear that because I knew it was a great day for him.
Yeah.
And he got to play this thing. The last thing he got to do was they'd built this big ramp, and they had the cars, and they were racing the cars. Two of his favorite things, cars and ramps. And I like to think that was him just going, wow, it cannot get any better.
Wow.
That's right.
Retiring undefeated champion.
Well, that's it now.
Friends as well, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, he's had his buddy Alvin next to him.
And how are you doing today?
All right. Yeah, it's what is what it is. Like on the drive here, I do a lot of talking to. I talk to myself a lot, and that's another thing. If you can't get counselling, talk to yourself. As in talking through not what I would say here, but as in talking to myself as in an interview sort of style.
Yeah, of course. Because Greg is the podcast master.
That is true. Wow, yes.
But yeah, and that's how I deal with, because I'm my own best friend. Like, and yeah, the drive here, there was crying. People would have been pulling up beside me going, what the hell is that man doing?
But you just needed that alone time and just to kind of...
Would that would
it
have
out
made
of the
what
system.
we're talking about right now, would that made it a lot easier for you to get it out of your system?
Yeah, pretty much.
We're extremely grateful you took the time out of your day to come and spend time with us and chat about Alby. I know it's not an easy subject because, nothing that has created such grief is an easy subject, but I'm glad we can honour him in a way and his memory in this way, because I just felt like people needed to see it and hear it from your side, because I think sometimes it's easy for people to be like, oh, whatever, but it's good for everyone to understand what you're feeling and how you're feeling. And we're extremely grateful for you coming out and chatting to us. There's been no tears.
No.
Oh, yeah.
From me. So.
Yes. No tears from you, Rick. Good
A couple
job.
of F-bombs, but that's okay.
Even on the day that, like the next day that it happened, like we had two burly police officers come over and they were on the verge of tears. And I'm one of those people that I don't not like to see people cry, but I like to break tension because I'm a comedian as well. And I made the two police officers laugh, and I saw them just go, oh crap, I know I've got to be professional. And I'm like,
Yes.
yeah.
All right, well, thank you for taking your time
Thanks for
out of your
having
day
me.
for joining us. We appreciate
Yeah,
it.
we really do.
We'll put a link down to Greg's podcast, Instagram, and we're going to put a link down to the Red Nose charity.
Yeah, Red Nose.
Make sure you guys donate, because they do amazing work and supporting people like Greg and his wonderful partner Kim, because, people like this need to be supported, and if you're going to donate to a worthy charity, that's one of them.
That
We
is
appreciate you. Thank you so much, Greg.
Thank
We
you.
really do. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you so
me.
much.